Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com, and this is The Gutters, my audio journal. Well, it's been a while, hasn't it? Let's see. The last time I released a Gutters episode was, I believe, in June or July. I think it was July of 2022, in which I talked about my foot surgery. And I also did a kind of a follow-up or sequel to that particular episode in my favorites of 2022 comic book episode, where I kind of, that foot surgery led to vacation, which led to the holidays, which led to, I don't know, some maybe slight depression. I don't know. But anyway, it was, as I explained in that episode, I did not feel like recording a Gutters episode, and even considered just stopping altogether. But really, what that meant, as obviously you are listening or hearing, that it wasn't I wanted to stop. It was that I needed a break. I needed to step away. And I quickly realized, well, it wasn't quickly. It was over the course of I'll say a good month, where I was, thinking about it hard instead of just like in the back of my brain. But I was feeling the pull. I wanted to talk about certain things, and I didn't want to throw that kind of stuff into a comic book related episode. So, or obviously a Star Trek related episode if it wasn't related to Star Trek. So, there was that pull, and so I wanted to get back in the saddle, as it were. Plus, the response I have gotten from my kind of the state of my life in that favorites of 2022 episode. So many people have reached out and offered their support for me continuing the Gutters. I am overwhelmed with gratitude to those individuals. I had no idea that that these Gutters episodes were so popular with the listeners. So I'm not going anywhere, folks. Is the result of this? So I'm humbled and grateful for that feedback and your listenership. So I'm back to talk about some things that are weighing on my mind a little bit, and of course, as always, I'll end the show with some mass media type stuff, movies, TV, podcasts. So there's something that happened recently. I first read about it from a post that Peter Rios made on Twitter. And that is the death of Darren Noel of the Legion of Substitute Podcasters. And on episode 750 episodes of the Legion of Substitute Podcasters, host Paul French, I think, if I heard this correctly, he mentioned something about him having a heart attack at some point. And so, that news about Darren, what Paul said, got me thinking about this subject that I have thought about before. And every time I think about it and what I think I should do about it, I quickly divert my attention to something else because I don't want to linger there. And if I'm being quite honest, I'm being superstitious about it, and I guess I'm going to talk about it in this episode. So, as far as Darren goes, I've listened to him on many episodes of the Legion of Substitute Podcasters, and I always found his voice to be refreshing and honest. And unfortunately, I only had one opportunity to be in a conversation with him. I think the Legion live chat. Yeah, it was just that one. I've listened to him on not only the Legion podcast, but their Legion podcast, but also he's been on, I think, a couple of Peter's Daily Rios shows. So I feel like I got to know him a little bit, but I never had the opportunity beyond that Legion Live chat to interact with him, and I would say I didn't really get a chance to interact with him that much because it was I should say we didn't have a direct one-on-one conversation, and I think I feel like it was a missed opportunity because I always found him to be, like I said, he's honest and interesting, and I think the podcasting community will miss him for quite a long time. So anyway, to bring it all back to me, so given that situation, that got me thinking, the fact that I also am progressing this year towards my 55th birthday, I was thinking about my digital estate. Like I said, this is something that I've thought about before, but I kind of always turn away from it for obvious reasons. But let's confront it. Let's just let me talk about it. So if I die, what happens with my social media accounts, the website, the podcast? My wife has access. She doesn't know specifically, but she has access. What those things are, but she has access to my my password vault. And so if something happens to me, she could do this, but would she know what to do with it? It's easy enough for, what do I want her to do? If I die and, after obviously some time has passed, when she could address it, do I ask her to, post on all my social media that I'm gone, so that people know, not that, I don't think I'm important or anything, but, someone, I don't know. I've seen on social media where people eventually they post that so and so has died or whatever, and that's why we've not heard from them or on their podcast, or we've not seen them post on things. I don't know. I guess it sounds really self-centered now that I'm talking about it, but I think you would want to know if I'm no longer around to doing. You may be wondering why I'm not posting things. I don't know. This is why I even hesitated to talk about this, because I'm struggling to express it in a way that doesn't sound like I think I'm important or something. So anyway, do I have her, post that I'm an ex-parrot?
This parrot is no more. It has ceased to be. It's expired and gone to see its maker. This is a late parrot. It's a stiff, bereft of life. It rests in peace. It's rung down the curtain and joined the choir invisible. This is an ex-parrot.
And beyond that, do I have her keep things around? Do I have her pay the hosting fees for the website and the podcast? Do I have her shut that stuff down after she posts that? As I've said, I've thought about this on several occasions over the years, but I thought about preparing for this so that she doesn't have to do anything. So I thought about preparing a blog post that would be posted on longboxreview.com that explain, basically, hey folks, I'm dead, and this is the last thing you'll see from me, type of thing. Also, I thought about doing a short podcast episode saying the same thing that I would have her release in the feed, but I would have to leave instructions for all that stuff for her. And every time I think about doing that, writing those instructions for her, I think I am tempting fate, and I don't want to do it because that would be ironic, right? I write this thing about my death, and then the next day I get hit by a bus or something, right? It's like Uh, but I would want that finality. I would, you know, for you, for me, I don't like dangling plot threads. So I don't know what I don't know what the right answer is. I know what I think is the right thing to do. I should prepare for these things. I mean, my wife and I, we just this in the last year we updated our wills. You know, because it's the right thing to do. We don't if you know if we were both to pass, we don't want our daughter to have to deal with the minute details of the death of a parent or death of your parents, right? We want that stuff clearly, for our estate because we, our possessions, our our investments, that kind of stuff. We want that all spelled out so that she doesn't have to make decisions for us. What would we want her to do? We want that stuff all taken care of. And so similarly, I should prepare. I should prepare a what a podcast will, if you will, for my wife, so that she doesn't have to try and figure it out, or like I said, just not know what to do and not do anything, and then things are just kind of left in limbo. And then okay, quite selfishly, I want the website to endure. I want the podcast, especially to endure. If nothing else, I want the podcast feed to stay. So how do I address that? And so I need to, well, one, I need to have a conversation with my wife detailing these things, right? And we've talked about it. I've talked to her about it briefly, but not any kind of detail. So what we do for podcast content. Yes. Okay. Anyway. So anyway, like I said, I should do these things. I should prepare, get things prepared, right? All right. I think I'm done lingering on this very uncomfortable conversation topic. All right. Speaking of dangling plot threads, here's another thing. I'm just going to rant about for a bit, if you don't mind. So back in November, we had a tragedy happen in my little hamlet, my quaint university town of about 20,000 people. We were in the national spotlight last November because of a quadruple homicide near the university campus. It turns out that, so there's this 4 young adults, babies, really. They were all in their early 20s, I think. But God, you look at their pictures, and they look like babies to me. And of course, my brain translates this to, what if that was my kid? You send them off to go to college, and some son of a bitch, for whatever reason, decides to kill these kids. And so anyway, so we had that scare. It happened right before the Thanksgiving break. The media vultures descended when school resumed about a week later, 2 weeks later or so. I've been driving Madison to school, to the high school, because for some reason our school district can't afford or can't find enough bus drivers. And so, because where we live, she has to be driven to school. It's too far away to walk. Anyway, so I've been driving her to school, and every time for a good, I think it was about 2 weeks, I would take her to school in the morning, and there were news trucks, news vans with satellite dishes poking out, and they got these tents covering the sidewalks and the recording equipment, and there are people standing outside because on the other side of the street from the high school is the local courthouse and whatnot. So they were reporting there, and then they were also at on the street where the murders occurred, and I'd heard people talking about reporters basically hounding neighbors and whatnot, looking for any frickin' angle to satiate their, I don't know, desire for any bit of, I won't even call it news, but sensationalism about this tragedy of these four kids. In fact, the high school issued a statement basically saying to the kids, because they're right there, right? If you are harassed by these reporters, make sure you tell us. And of course, they were, they're not supposed to do that, but you know how some of these people are. Like, for example, that's bad, and then it gets worse because Nancy Grace shows up and sets up a table with her tent covering, because it's winter and whatnot, right? So, and she puts it right in front of the house. They could clearly see the house behind her, and she's making all these stupid comments and suppositions and just, all of this it just really sickened me. Okay. Wow. I didn't realize I'd get so angry about this, talking about it again, but there you go. And then finally, last thing I'll just say, since I'm in a grumpy mood, apparently, we did our taxes this year, and oh my God, I need to re-examine what I'm having the federal government take out because we owed quite a lot of money. So part of that is we lost one child tax credit with Gabby turning 18 and moving out of the house. So we have to pay a good chunk of money here in April. So not looking forward to that. Anyway, we even owed our state, Idaho State, a whopping $37. So, it's like adding insult to injury. All right. I'm done unloading and burdening you with my my grumpy ass. Okay. So like I said before, there were some things that I wanted to talk about and didn't have a real good venue for it besides this Gutters episode. And so here we go. Let's talk about some movies. Something a little less dire. So I watched the movie for the first time. Watched the movie Rope with Jimmy Stewart and some other fine actors that I can't remember now. But I had heard about this movie a good, 25 years ago. It was a movie that some fellow essay writing instructors at the university, where I also did that work for a while, they used that as a teaching tool. I don't remember exactly why they did, but I remember a couple of them using that, having the students watch the movie and then write about it in some fashion. Like I said, I don't remember exactly why or what the context was there. But anyway, I remember them telling me about the movie, and I'm like, oh, that sounds good. And then I just, maybe I thought about it over the years, but I never sought it out. And finally I did. I think because of the 430 movie podcast, perhaps they might have talked about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch this thing. And so I finally did. And what an interesting movie. This is a Hitchcock movie. And I think it's about 90 minutes, something like that. But it's not a one-shot movie or a continuous filming of the scenes, because they had to do it in I think 40-minute increments because that's how much film they had. I may be getting all these details wrong, but so there's some creative cuts to it where, for example, they'll zoom in on the back of a chair or the back of somebody, and then the screen goes blank, for lack of a better term, and then it pulls back, and we're in the same scene. The scene continues, but now it's the new film reel, and so it's a different. Well, we come back in. Like I said, we come back into the scene. Anyway, I enjoyed it quite a bit. Plus, there's this whole murder mystery on the part of Jimmy Stewart trying to figure out what's going on here, and these killer. Wow, Jesus, way to be insensitive, Eric. I didn't realize talking about the Moscow murders. And this, wow. Okay. Anyway, I found the movie to be quite charming. The dialogue, the characters, the characterizations, the technical experimentation, which apparently did not go over well with audiences back then. I don't remember when this movie came out. I want to say 1940, late 1940s. Anyway, I need to write this stuff down when I'm going to talk about these kind of things. But I quite enjoyed it anyway. Another older movie that I was getting back to, I watched, was it The Thin Man? I think that's the first one. I was so delighted with the Thin Man movie that I wanted to watch the sequels. And there are 3, 4, maybe 5 of these. And so I watched after the Thin Man. And because of the chemistry between the two lead actors, and now I'm blanking on who they are, but the husband and wife team of this, they're just delightful, and the mystery involving and a young Jimmy Stewart, a younger Jimmy Stewart than in Rope was in this movie, and he plays it's interesting the situation that his character is in. I have to say the mystery wasn't all that. It's kind of like one of those mysteries where the detective he knows it's kind of like the Agatha Fletcher, the Murder, She Wrote series, where she seemed to be able to pull stuff out of thin air and know who did it. And then she would tie it all up and explain it to you. But I always felt like it was kind of a cheat. And granted, I only watched a few of these episodes, but I didn't like them, so I didn't watch many. So it's kind of like that. It's like the detective in this knew something or figured out something that wasn't quite on the page, as it were, and was able to figure it out. But anyway. It's still an enjoyable movie because of the chemistry of the characters, because of the dialogue. Boy, if you are not I've heard so many people over the years say it's black and white, it's boring. Madison says this. The old films, 40s, 50s films, they're not as sophisticated. Bull. I mean, the writing of in this movie, the dialogue, the characters are just. They're better than a lot of stuff I watch now, and I kind of want to explore that era a lot more to see what gems are there that I've never experienced. So I leave it in your capable movie watching hands now, or eyes, or whatever. So real quick, we watched Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and Thor: Love and Thunder, one right after the other, and I don't have much to say about those other than they were okay. They were fine. It was fine. I'd much rather go watch another Thin Man movie than watch a recent modern Marvel movie. And then finally, we watched. I think this is an Academy Award nominee, The Banshees of Inisherin, and. Mostly because, it's set in Ireland. My wife and I love that country. And wow, that was an interesting movie. Black comedy, indeed it is. So if you like black comedies, I highly recommend this one. It's about a couple of friends. Okay, it's ostensibly about a couple friends, one of whom decides he no longer wants to be friends with this other guy because he's taking up too much space in terms, the one friend is wasting his time being friends with this other guy because all he does is talk about his sheep or something like that. And he wants to focus on creating something. Unfortunately, his former friend doesn't want to let it go, and that leads to some rather drastic things happening. That's all I'll say. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. My wife probably didn't as much. But as far as television goes, I started watching House of Dragons. I watched the first episode. I'm done. It was okay. I don't need to watch anymore. We also started watching the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, I think is the name of that show. I actually enjoy that one more as far as like a fantasy type situation. We need to get back to that. Recently, we watched all three of us, my wife, and Madison and I, watched I think it's on Netflix. It's called Lockwood & Co. It's based on a series of books about young people. Well, it's about a world where ghosts are real and they attack people and kill them, or can kill them. Young people have these abilities either to see ghosts or to communicate with them in some way or whatever. And so they've been trained to basically be ghost hunters and go in and take care of these ghostly threats through various means. But there's this one, and they're all run by. It's big business, and so you've got these competing firms that have their own groups of young people being these ghost hunters. Anyway, but except for this one, Lockwood & Co., which are three people, with Anthony Lockwood being the prime one, and so it follows their adventures through I think, what was it, 6 or 8 episodes? I don't remember, but all I know is I want to watch more. I want them to produce more of the show because it was a lot of fun. And then finally, television-wise, I finished Young Justice Phantoms on HBO Max. Boy, that was so. They actually debuted this, so it would have been they debuted that new season not last October, but the October before that, so 2021, right? Because they announced that they had dropped 3 episodes of the show during the DC. Oh, that DC event. Oh my God, what did they call that thing? They did not have it this last October, but they so anyway, move on, Eric. I started watching it shortly after that and quickly left off on it because I got bored. I I like the opening story because it's kind of broken up into various like 4 or 5 major storylines, and I like the Mars stuff in part because some spoilers here if you haven't watched it. Some Legion members show up. I like the Sentinels of Magic part. I did not care for the Atlantis stuff. That I got to that, I'm like, oh God, it was a slog. But after that, there's a New God story that kind of started picking things up that led us into the finale. There is a kind of a cliffhanger situation, so if they don't bring it back for another season, then that's not going to be great. But I don't know. My problem with Phantoms, and I think also the previous season, was that they were given more episodes, more time, and I feel like they really should cut back the number of episodes. I think there's, I don't know, I want to say about 20-ish episodes in the Phantoms season, and I really think they should cut it in half and make the stories tighter and, like I said, less boring. I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it, but I was like, come on, let's pick up the pace here. Let's get some things going. Let's make some more connections between this and that. Ugh. Anyway, I despite my complaints, I still like the show. I want to see how they resolve the overall situation that's been developing over the course. Well, I think over the whole course, but especially the last 2 seasons. All right, let's talk about some podcasts. I got a bunch of things here. So last Gutters episode, which was, like I said, back in July of last year, I congratulated Meanwhile at the Podcast for having reached 150 episodes. Well, since then, they made it to 200 and beyond. So I just wanted to recognize that milestone as well. And I have to say that episode 200 was just so much fun. It was a game show format hosted by Greg Schiegel. It was just a lot of fun to listen to. The 430 Movie Podcast is back. I mentioned them before. They've been on hiatus, and they got a new season out, as it were. And the latest episode that I've listened, no, there have been two. I don't remember what the second one was about now. Oh my gosh. Oh, The Play's a Thing. Okay, so the last two episodes they've done, they talked about, they picked some Tom Cruise movies to talk about, and then the last episode that I've listened to is movies that were based on plays, and so I just enjoy that podcast so much. It's the reason why I started. Like I said, I think I wanted to go watch Rope because they mentioned it. I'm sure they mentioned the Thin Man movies, which is why I sought those out. So my movie to watch list grows and grows because of that podcast. All right. Speaking of the 430 Movie Podcast, because three of the hosts on that show also are on the Inglorious Trexperts podcast that I love as well. They did their so starting at the end of last year, every year they do this big countdown thing, and they spent 9 episodes plus a rebuttal episode running down the 101 greatest Trek characters. And I think one of the co-hosts, Mark A. Altman, said that all in all, it was about 24 hours of content just on that subject. So that was quite a feat. I mean, they do like 2-hour episodes every time, and so how does it get 20? So it's 9 episodes. So they must be longer than 2 hours, because that doesn't quite come up to 24. Anyway, all right. Anyway, good stuff if you're a Trek fan as well. New podcast that I've listened to a couple episodes of is Mike Atchison's. He's Mike Atchison's comic. No, he's from the Campus Comics cast, and he's interacted with me on Twitter and contributed some feedback to the Legion Project as well. He has a new show called The Comic Shop Roadshow, and so Mike, through his job, he's able to travel, and what he's decided to do is go to the comic shops where he's at and talk to either the manager or their owner, someone at the comic shop, about their shop, and then also get a recommendation of something to read and then talk about from that comic shop. And I think that's a great premise. I've enjoyed both episodes. You should check out Mike's Comic Shop Roadshow. Of course, I'll have links to all these podcasts in the show notes here. So check that out. Another new show, one that is better than I thought it would be. If you are a Magnum PI fan, as I am, I've listened to several Magnum PI shows over the years, and usually they just go through the episode and talk about the episode, right? Well, this show, the Magnum podcast, as in Magnum, podcast, like Magnum, PI. So I thought that was kind of cute. But the Magnum podcast, while they talk about the shows, they don't do it in a typical episode recap and then commentary. They just jump right into, and they don't even really tell you about the episode. They just kind of jump into it. And well, I take that back. They do tell you about the episode as they're commenting on it. So the way they're doing it is I think is very adept and not something that I could do well at all. But I appreciate it. And there are several individuals involved in this, and they bring in their experience watching the show, watching television during that time, and they bring in all sorts of stuff, and I really like it. So check that out. And then finally, I just wanted to note that my co-host of the Legion Project podcast, Peter Rios, has been like Mr. Prolific and doing, not only his show, The Daily Rios, our Legion Project. He is a co-host on the DC All-Stars show. He's been doing old school CGS episodes with the original gang, and guest spots everywhere. Which I love, because I love listening to what Peter has to say about various topics. So you should. He lists those appearances on his website at thedailyrios.com. So you should check those out. And I think that's it. What an interesting episode. I had these notes and didn't realize I would be going certain. That's one of the things I actually do like about the gutters is that I think I'm going to be talking about this thing or in this going down this path, and then I end up veering and coming back and just I don't know where I'm going to end up. Is what I'm saying with these episodes, but it's nice therapy for me, I think, which is why I wanted to come back and do this. So yeah, there you go. I hope you enjoyed this episode. All right, I should let you go, and we'll see what happens next, where I go with this next. So anyway, thanks for listening, and I will talk to you later. Bye bye.